Welcome, everyone, to this episode of the Expansive CEO Podcast. I'm your host, Hannah Chapman, and my lovely co host, Lauren Ammon, is here with me. And we are going to talk about kind of, I don't know, just we're going to have an interesting conversation today. We've been chatting for a while, um, and kind of came around to a question that my husband had posed to me. So, a little backstory. Um, Well, why don't I put it this way? We're gonna talk about what if we're wrong. What if we're wrong about human design, about gene keys, about all kinds of stuff? What if we're wrong? And this came from this last week was my husband and my 20th wedding anniversary. It was
Yay!
amazing. Thank you. We had such a wonderful time. The kids went to his parents' house and stayed there for several days. We got out of town. We just had the best time connecting. And one thing that my husband has learned about me is that I love questions. Deep
What?
conversation. I mean, can you imagine? Deep conversation is my love language for sure. One, because it's like quality time. Quality time is like so important to me. And then just like, again, talking about interesting things with people that I love. Favorite thing in the world. Why on earth do I have two podcasts? I can't imagine.
I don't know.
So, anyway, so he, uh, I don't know that if he had been like saving these questions up, but we had dinner, every night for, like 3 nights. And, um, he just had all these like really good questions like teed up, like, okay, I have this really good question for you. And so then I'd answer and he'd answer and we'd have a fun conversation. And one of them, our first night that we went to dinner, one of his questions was, do you think you might be wrong about something? Is there anything you think you might be wrong about? And I was like, ooh, that's a good question. And I was like, I don't know. And so he answered first, actually. He went first, and his answer was amazing and fascinating. Um, and I just really appreciated it. And then I was like, there are a few things that I can think of. And to preface this too, like he's been like really at times been really skeptical about human design and gene keys, and especially like several years ago. And I tried to share it with him and I was really excited. And he was like, how can astrology be real? And astrology is a big part of human design and all that. Um and it was, a relationship issue at that point. He was a little snarky about it. He wasn't very kind. And we worked actually through that issue, and it was really important for us to work through that, to say like, I'm not here to convince anyone of this, but also I'm not here to hurt anyone with this. And that's when he realized that he had not been kind about it, like kind of sarcastic and quippy, but also that the way that I use it, that you use it, that we use it with clients is in service to helping people
Yes.
like know themselves better, and that there's no ill intent behind any of it. And so he just had that kind of breakthrough that was like, oh, like, yeah, I'll just support you. Just support you. I don't have to believe it. And that was important for me too, for him to let it go, right? Like he doesn't have to think the same things that I think. And so he did say, like, I wasn't like asking if you think you're wrong about human design or gene keys. Like that's not where the question necessarily was going. And his answer was different and very thoughtful. And I was like, you know what? If I am, what if I am wrong about human design? What if it is crazy woo woo? What if Gene Keys is like not real whatsoever? What if? And my honest answer to that was like, I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters, because the way in which that it's helped me connect with myself, like understand myself, and be a more kind and loving person, more compassionate person, um, and to connect with, like, that's, like, such an important aspect of me just in general to I if my goal is to help people create and find their own self-love, love themselves more, be more in alignment with that, I don't see any negative when it's being used in that way. So if it's wrong, okay. Do you love yourself more? Do you care about yourself more? Do you care about other people more? Okay.
Yeah. All right. Then we're fine. I,
Right, then
I'm
we're fine.
I'm absolutely the same way. And I have had moments, like moments of dread, moments of like, what if I am wrong about this? What if this is a bunch of bullshit and all the things? And then I sit back in my life and I'm like, yeah, but the way that exactly what you're saying, the way that I'm using it, the way that I support other people and understanding it, and how you and I now tag team it in a way, it's mind blowingly supportive. It's very freeing in a way. And this idea of I have never in my life since stumbling upon human design, since you introduced it and I, ran with it, my 1-3 was like, sure, let's do this. I have never felt more secure about myself. I have never felt more grounded in myself. And I've never felt more accepting of myself. And I think the biggest aha for me, uh, uh, you understand me, right? And listener, you're learning to understand. Like if something is, it's almost like the most simple concept can be the most freeing thing on the planet. And it was, when Ra talks about you are very limited in your energy. Like your energy is what your energy is. You cannot move it. You cannot exchange it. You cannot go to the source, to God, to the universe and be like, so sorry. You mind if I exchange this part of it? And let me just do this different part. But what was so freeing to me was the limitation of like, oh, I don't have to be all of these things that I feel compelled I need to be in order to be more successful, be more appreciated, be more accepted, be more XYZ. It's like, no, no, no. I get my little teeny tiny Lauren contribution in this world and how absolutely amazing that is. And then to flip that on the other side and be like, oh my God, look at Hannah's contribution, or look at my older son's contribution, or look at my younger sons or my sisters, or all the I'm like, ah, look what they get to do in this world. And I don't have to give a flying fuck in a very powerful way. Meaning like I don't have to care what they're doing because it's theirs. Nor do they have to care what I'm doing because it's mine. And when I say care, I mean compare. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
trying to keep up and trying to, well, I need to be the way that Hannah's a manifesting generator. So I need to be that way. Or, my sister is a manifesting generator. I need to be that way. Or my sister has a channel, my other sister has a channel of preservation. She has this natural nurturing about her. No, 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 no. I can care because I get to watch them be who they are, but I don't have to worry that I need to pick up some kind of bag and carry who and what they are, because no, I was made for a really specific contribution and so were they. It has legitimately allowed me to put down my comparison bag, my I wish I could be bag, I wish I were more bag. No, no, to be fair, some days are like, God damn it. No, if I just had that gate, maybe my life would be easier, right? But then it's like, yeah, but I don't. And I get to experience that gate through other people. So BFD, that is not part of me. And again, if I'm wrong, eh, you know, it's helped. So, and I've seen an alternative. I've lived in an alternative. I wasn't very
Mhm.
fun.
Yeah.
So who gives a shit?
Well, so my question that was coming up as you were talking was like, do you like yourself more
Oh,
than you used to?
100%. 1000%. Because the things that I now know, so for instance, like I have always known that I'm very opinionated. I've
What?
known it. I know. Excuse me? And this also that there have been times where I just can't stop it. I ge I physically it just, like, comes shooting out of me, right? My channel of judgment is completely unconscious. It comes right out of me, and I don't see it until it comes out. I'm like, "Ooh, yeah, those oop, let me go back." But now I also understand how that energy is designed to be worked, and I see how I have used that energy against myself and against other people. Because that energy truly is about the collective. And I always have been, well, this system doesn't work and that system doesn't work. And if we just change this, and now I see all these patterns. But now I understand that, yes, it will come up and out, and I can't sometimes stop it or I don't always see it. But I'm also much more cognizant that it's not about other people, it's about the world at large. And how it's a really vanilla word, like how amazing it is that my contribution gets to be, what about the system isn't working?
Mhm.
And how do I get to be a cog in the wheel that when I respond and it's in my best self-interest, that automatically helps support the best interest of the collective and the tribe based on my unique circuitry. And so I'm like, yeah, my opinions actually matter when I'm asked and when they're in response to something. Otherwise, I just get to keep them to myself.
And that's learning. That's on growth.
Yes.
Well, and I mean, even just thinking about for me too, I mean, it's the same. It's like I I feel like I've had a baseline of self-love and self-acceptance my whole
Yeah.
life, right? And again, I'm defined. My G center is defined, the little take a pause, the diamond. Usually it's well, in the charts if you've gotten them from Expansive CEO, it's yellow, yellow diamond in the middle. Um I am defined there. And pretty well defined. I have 3 gates, multiple activations on those gates and even with that I can see now how much more I like myself. And I can see the places where, especially in my teens, my 20s, my early 30s, where I hurt myself thinking I wasn't good enough in some way. And, all, the self-harm I did, not in a trigger warning type of way, necessarily, but, like I what I'll call it is, orthorexia, I think is the term, right? That we tend to use. I look back at literally physically my body growing up in the 90s. I was a teenager in the 90s, early 2000s, the heroin chic, right? Like all of that. And Kate Moss, bless her soul, being literally like disappearing was the fashion. And I look back at myself, literally pictures of myself and see, I was telling Lauren earlier, like it's like you could eat soup out of my collarbones, right? Like you could see they were sharp. And I still thought I was fat. Still thought I was like bigger than the other girls around me. I was tiny. I was tiny. But there were girls that were skinnier, of course. Right? Again, time that we were in. And there was so much. If there was any self-hatred in me, a lot of it was geared towards that. Like, I have to force my body to fit in to the way that I think it should be. And to the point where exercise is healthy, lifting weights is important for women. Like, all of those things are true, but I got to use those as like, see, I'm doing the right thing, and I just so happen to be forcing myself into a body that is actually not meant to be maintained. And one was just this just reminded me of this. When I was 23, we had just moved from Arizona to Cincinnati. Maybe it had been like it was within that year. I was working out a ton. Um, I had lost quite a bit of weight. That I'd gained a little bit after college and lost like 20 or 30 pounds. And I woke up one and I was not eating very much. And I woke up one night, it was literally the middle of the night. And I like sat up in bed crying. I was sleeping and I sat up in bed and was like physically crying. And Adam sat up next to me and he's like, "What's the matter?" And I was like, "I'm so hungry." And he went downstairs and he toasted an English muffin and put peanut butter on it. And he came up and gave me, and I wouldn't eat the whole thing. So he was like, "I will eat this half if you eat this half." So it was like midnight. We're eating an English muffin with peanut butter on it. And it was like, there were times like that, that I can look back and it just like my heart breaks for that version of me that had to like somehow find control in that way in order to feel like I could fully love and accept myself. And so, I mean, I tell that story just to share that like I've been through it. I've been through the ringer. I've put myself through the ringer in different ways until, in my 30s when I left the company that I was at before I started X Squared in 2021. I have believed for a while that's really when I was really starting to listen to myself, when that was really coming online, when they told me I wasn't going to be good at building a financial planning practice, that what I'm doing, all of that. That's when my defined G center like lit on fire. It was like literally, I've told this story before. The what came into my head as they told me I was not going to be successful anymore, the words, I didn't say them out loud, but the words that flooded in were, "You don't know who I am. You don't know who I am. You don't get to decide who I am. I get to decide." And I know that this is part of my calling. And so the hilarious thing, so that was in 2020. And then in 2021, January of 21 is when I left and I launched X Squared. And in March of 2021 is when I discovered human design. And pretty like one of the earlier things that I did was like someone gave me my life theme.
Mhm.
There's a book called The Book of Destinies, and it's based on your incarnation cross. And so, and as I was reading my life theme, money and helping people understand money shows up like 3 times in this like 2 paragraphs of a life theme. And I was like, "What?" And then my astrological natal chart, like all of that, like it's written in my stars, right? In a lot of ways that this is what I'm here to do. But it was just so hilarious to me to have gone through everything that I went through, especially like 2019, 2020, professionally, be told that I was not gonna be good at this, and then to see, like, again, like, I know that I am supposed to be here doing this, what I'm doing now, and then to see it, like, reflected back to me in words that I did not write. Okay. I choose I the reason and that's one of the reasons I choose to believe. that it's real, right? And that it works is because like again, it helped me anchor into what I already knew within me about myself. It just helped me anchor into it and to believe it, right? To believe myself, believe what I already knew to be true and just like reflect it back to me.
Yeah. And I'm sitting here thinking, as a sixth line, so in 2020, you were what, 36?
Almost 42. So yeah, 35, 36.
36? And being a sixth line, right? Your solar return was probably somewhere in your earlier 30s, probably the 30, 31, 32, something like that. So, I always think like the first third of a sixth line's life is it's kind of unfair in some ways. Like you're living this three-line theme, but you're not a three line. So you're feeling this energy that is a part of your life, but not a part of your being. And I would venture to guess that it's probably very, being a three line myself, it's probably very exhausting, a little daunting a little bit. Like now that you're on the roof and you can look back of like, oh my God, what was I doing to myself in whatever doing to myself meant in any six lines life? But it's almost as if it couldn't happen until then. Like, it
Mhm.
couldn't happen until you were up on the roof. And, you started to go from, the first third of your life is the subjectivity of it all. Like, what the fuck is happening in my life? Like, what is going on? Then you get on the roof and you're starting to see this objectivity, and the objectivity for you specifically looking at your design is like, yeah, you don't know who I am because I've had to spend these 30 years trying to figure out who the hell I was in this energy that isn't really for me, but I had to go through it that way so I could figure out what was.
Mhm.
And it makes total sense that in that moment, you're like, yeah, you don't know who I am because I'm just now figuring it out and I'm feeling it. And it's almost like that surge of your identity being like, no, no, no. And I can see it now. I actually love to see when like your identity comes like shooting out of you. And I'm like, oh, there it is. There she is. And it's just so powerful. And I would say like when in my early 30s, before I knew who I was, I would probably be either one, intimidated, or two, annoyed by it before. For
Mm.
someone like me who has an undefined G, right? I don't know who the fuck I am, but that's okay. That's part of it. As I get to wake up and I get to walk into a room and be who or whatever I respond to in that moment.
Mhm.
And that's why I love it because again, I get to look at you and be like, God, look at this 6'2" contribution of this like pure individual who has this connection to the tribe. So it's not just about her, but when it needs to be about her, it is. And that's how it's supposed to be. Right? She's got to figure out her own direction. She's got to hang on to her own conviction. She's got to do this, she's got to do that. But you also allow me to do the same. Like, there are times when you're like, okay, well, you're probably like, God, here comes another opinion here. What else isn't working today? Sort of thing. But I also recognize that's part of the contribution is to recognize what isn't working and to say, okay, well, if we just do, let's just try this. And that's what I love about it is because it truly has allowed me the opportunity. Like, yeah, you're a totally different person. Yeah, you go do you. And when I say you do you, that truly, when I say that these days, I'm like, yes, please, you do you. Even if me sitting back here, in my knowledge and what I know, I'll be like, yeah, that might be a little not coming, not to you specifically, but I'm just saying, like, there are people in my lives, and I'll be like, in my life, I'm like, well, yeah, that's probably not going to work out very well.
Right,
But
they
that's
didn't
okay.
ask for your judgment, so
Yeah. Well, but that's also part of a three line, right? A three line is pessimism. And it is about like, yeah, I don't think that's gonna work. But being a three line, I always say that there's there's always a mirror to the energy, right? So even if that person isn't a 3 line, they have to go figure it out for themselves. They have to go do those things. And I will also say that as a mother, like I knew in my heart of hearts, you know, as a parent, when we have children, we have these visions of who we want them to be in our mind, right? Because having grown up an athlete, I was like, oh, I have 2 boys. I'll have 2 amazing athletes. They'll do more than I ever did. Da 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 da. Yeah, that's not how life worked out.
Yeah.
And there
Same
are
with
very
same with music. Same with music
yes,
for us.
they're very talented in their own rights. And, they just what I envisioned in my head was that they would have the exact same um desire and work ethic. They're coming from me. Like, why wouldn't they? Yeah, that's not how life works. But before I found human design, I did have this aha moment of the hardest lesson as a parent is watching your child become their own person. And when I had that aha moment, it's like I knew it in my whole being. And again, my intuition like come up and like duh, like as a parent, anybody can get there, right? Anybody can have that. But it was like when I had that moment, it was okay, but how do I parent them the way that
Mhm.
they are? And it wasn't until, again, and I probably had that aha moment in 2019, 2020. And then, you brought human design into my world in 2021. So it was like, oh,
Here's
oh,
here's something to try.
here, here's something new, and again, we all know our children are very different. We all know they come from the same DNA, but they really don't, right? They
Yeah,
also
there's
don't
so many
grow
combinations.
right, and they also don't grow up in the same environment because we as parents are not the same as when our first comes versus when our second, we're totally different people. But to have that map and to be able to look at my sons and be like, "Oh, I see now why my oldest son had to play 947 different sports. He has a channel of transitoriness. He becomes a master by doing all different kinds of things. Oh, why does my younger son emote more than I felt like any human being on the planet at any given moment? Also, why is he always struggling with things? And why is he like always up in his head? And why is he's just his own person? Oh, because he has individual circuitry and he's got to go in cycles and all the things. And it was like, and it truly, again, if I'm wrong, don't care because it allows me the opportunity to look at my sons and be like, I know I need to parent you differently. And now at least I have a foundation that says, try this, try that,
Mhm.
and knowing that both of my sons are like, I think the biggest thing was learning that both of my sons were emotionally defined. I was like,
Mhm.
oh, okay,
Yeah,
got it.
absolutely. Yeah, and I 3 so there I have 3 kids and then Adam, and so Adam and my 2 older kids are all emotionally defined. So we have 3 out of 5, and then me and my youngest daughter are undefined. We don't have defined solar plexus. I'm sacral, authority, she's a splenic, projector. So she's splenic authority, and that too, like, seeing how much she amplifies is interesting, seeing that in the wild.
Yes.
Yeah, like, when it happens and when she starts to feel anxious or cringed out or, whatever, like, I can see can see her little design working overtime, like, in real time. And again, to your point, I had I can't even remember when I had that realization. So I had my kids when I was 26, 28, and 30. Um, and I very similar, like, it was sometime even when they were little, like, I knew that you couldn't parent everyone the same way.
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, I have 3 brothers, I was the only girl, and like, I knew that I could have benefited from s- and it was different. My parents did parent me differently somewhat because I was a girl, but still it was like, it's all the same. It's all equal. I'm like, there's something wrong with that. That's not, um, I saw it in my husband's family too. And like, you treat them all the same. I'm like, well, they're three different people. And so I had that knowing, even when they were little, but I would say the same, like seeing their human design, seeing like my son, my middle child I think he has seven centers defined. He is so, it was like, oh my God. Yeah. It's just like my goal was to meet them where they're at anyway. There's, the attachment theory and, attachment parenting. Some people call it gentle parenting, but I don't necessarily agree with that label more than, attachment parenting. Right? Like, let's make sure they have a stable attachment when they're babies, and through childhood, right? That was some of the different books that I read to prepare and all of those things. Um, but then also when my older kids turned out to be on the autism spectrum, right? Again, it was like I followed one creator who was focused on, like, follow the child, follow the child. Your child is different from everyone else. Like, they're unique. You, you know, as a parent, you're allowed to do that. Do what your kid needs. Don't try to force them into whatever mold everyone else says they need. And so that was very well, looking back at that, I mean, again, so I was like 26, 28. At that point, this was, quite a few years before I discovered human design. That's that G, that defined G center in action yet again. Of like, I remember I love my mother-in-law. Just for the record. For the record, I love you. Um, but when my oldest was a baby, we were visiting once. We were in Cincinnati. We took her back, brought her back to Arizona. And she was fussing about something, and my mother-in-law said, like, "Well, you're gonna spoil her." And I was like, "You cannot spoil a baby. You cannot spoil an infant." I still believe that to be true to this day. If they are crying, they need something, right? And even if they just need to be held, then they're not being spoiled by being held. Um, I will stand on that hill for my whole life. But again, like, I was not about to let someone else push me off of what I felt very strongly, deeply to be true. My direction in parenting, which was different than how I had been parented, different from what my husband's parents had done. There's our balloons.
Yay. Riverside's like,
Why? Why with the
Hannah,
balloons?
celebrating,
But
celebrating.
well, yes. But that, like, looking back, right? Even then, like, no one was going to convince me not to follow the direction that I felt in my heart of hearts was right for my kids, and I just did it.
Mm, and what a gift in the modern world, though, as well. Looking at social media, like, getting caught up in all these mom hacks. And sometimes I look at them like, what the fuck are you actually doing? Like, what is this? You're actually creating more work for yourself because of this hack thing, right? It's like, whatever. And yeah, like standing in your own, your own principles, your higher convictions, and, to your own identity in your own direction, right? That is part of who you are. And I'm really gonna throw a woo in here about this one. So, I look at my younger son, and this is kind of along the same lines of letting him lead. So I have a very strong um, spleen, the splenic center, right? The whole damn thing is lit up, and I got everything, and every fiber of my being. So my younger son was a COVID kindergartner, right? So he got
Mm.
yanked out and in the middle of COVID, and I remember I accidentally signed up to be in the library every other week. during his I must have had a stroke or something, and I accidentally so every other week I was in library, watching, volunteering as they do, right? And I would watch him. He would just sit and he would listen and he would be very courteous. And he had, four jackasses in his class that were all always up and moving and shaking and, disrupting everything. And COVID happens and, he goes on an iPad and then all of a sudden now in first and second grade, well, now he has ADHD and he can't concentrate and he's a menace and he's always like doing all the things, right? And I remember being like, that's not my kid. I just remember being like, there's something. So fast forward, we get to human design, right? And my younger son has both format channels. He's got the channel of concentration, a design of being focused, and he's got the channel of maturation, a design of balanced development. And I'm sitting here thinking, like, okay, this kid has ADHD, but he's also has the channel of concentration. Now, I recognize that those who are diagnosed with ADHD can be very focused
Mhm.
on
Hyper-focused on
like
what they want.
fucking super focused. Yes, on things that they enjoy, right? But then you also have to look at the other side. He's got the channel of maturation, a design of balanced development, 7-year cycles, right? And if you get pulled out of something in the middle of an experience, you're going to repeat the cycle over and over and over until 7 years is over. So when I say that I'm going to say something woo, I am banking on that when my son is in 8th grade, the cycle could be broken. He was yanked out in kindergarten or end of 7th grade, probably. Yeah, like he was pulled out of this cycle. And he is now just repeating the cycle over and over and over. And I am just waiting for, end of 7th grade, beginning of 8th grade. And he is a different version of himself because the cycle has completed. Now,
Yeah.
also knowing this of like, how can I support him being a generator? Okay, bud, how now do you respond to the correct things? And knowing that as a 13-year-old, when he'll get there, he can't, there are some things he is forced to respond to, right? When in school. But I've also recognized that child when he wants to concentrate, he can concentrate, but also recognize that specific channel is all about being enthusiastic about the things that you're responding to and you're concentrating on. So again, like even if I'm wrong, this also allows me the opportunity not to lose my shit when things aren't working for him at school. When he's having a hard time concentrating, when he's having a hard time organizing himself, when he's having a hard time following all the ridiculous rules sometimes that exist at the school, he's just in a cycle, right? And I don't just say that flippantly to be like, oh well, he can do whatever he wants. He's just in the cycle. No, 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 that's not what I'm saying. It's more of like, okay, I have an opportunity to be more patient with him. To say, okay, we're just still waiting on the clock here, bud. We got about a year and a half left to go, or actually a year. We probably got about a year to go.
Yeah, yeah, at this point, right?
And so, again, if I'm wrong, BFD, because I get to approach my son in a way where, you know, I was a straight A student. You know,
Mhm.
school was not hard for me.
Same.
And again, we have this visions of our kids that they're going to be, fall in the lineage and the DNA is just going to flow right to them exactly the same way it was for us, right? Well, he's not that kid. Homeboy got a D minus or D plus in science this year, and I was like, you know what? It's fine. It's totally fine.
Maybe we try a different science.
Yeah. So it's all part of it was not handing in his assignments. I'm like, okay, you know, that's what I mean. Like, okay, I know he has trouble focusing. I know he has trouble when he just doesn't care. He just sticks things wherever he sticks things. So, when as being on the outside, how can I support him differently without losing my shit and recognizing he is a different person. He gets distracted. Could he also be in a cycle that he just has no control over?
Yeah. Well, and then finding the right kind of support, right? Like that's the difference too. I mean, for all of my kids, uh, that's been um that's been the thing too, right? I've also mine were so very similar age, but my middle is going into 8th grade. Is your youngest going into 8th grade? They're the same.
7th. No, he's going in 7th.
Okay, okay. So they're like born the same year, but just
Yes.
Henry
Yes.
started school earlier. That's right.
Yes.
So my middle is going into 8th grade. Um, Oldest is going into 10th grade, youngest is going into 6th grade, and I forget where I was going with that. Oh, just being able to support them in the ways that they each need, right? Like they were also that's where it was. I think Henry was in 1st grade. It was pre-K, 1st grade, 3rd grade when COVID hit, kind of the same. And woof, that was tough. Um, having because Henry and Clara, both my 2 olders, were put on computers in different like everything was different and they had like different schedules and my husband and I were both working and both of us were like busier than ever and working from home and they're like trying to like log oh my god, it was insane.
It was
Anyway,
the
it's
worst.
the worst. Having I think we had it because I had friends who had older kids who were more like they could get on the computer themselves
Yes.
and do their own thing. And then I had friends with younger kids who were not in school at all. And I think we had it our cohort of parents with like young elementary age had it the worst. So it was so hard. Um, so yeah, to just navigate all of that. Um, but in that same sense, like knowing, seeing each of them go through school and have different challenges and to figure out, okay, what's the right support for them?
Yes.
How are they different from, how's Clara different from Henry, different from Hazel, and what do they each need?
Yes.
Rather than, all right, just everyone gets the same.
Yes.
And I want to tie it into also one, client couple that we're working with right now. It's so interesting because they are both manifesting generators, both emotional authority manifesting generators. Right? So to someone hearing that might go, "Oh, they're probably really similar," right? Like, "Ooh, no." No, wildly different.
Yes.
Um, and it has been such a gift. Like, I can't even describe, like, how much love like, my cup is just, like, full, working with them and helping them see, um so, if you're listening, you know who you are, and we love you so much.
Yes. So
But
much.
to right? But to like, again, on the outside, they have both emotional manifesting generators. You would think there's a lot of similarity, a lot of different like, we could probably treat them kind of the same. No, one husband has almost exclusively individual energy, and the wife has her only conscious energy is tribal. And so there's these very, like, competing, um, focus almost in the individuals themselves between what feels to each one of them, what feels like the most important thing in life. For him, it's the individual, like, purpose, focus, not that he doesn't love his family and want to be with them and to succeed with them and bring them along, but it's, like, through his individual contribution to the
Yes.
world that
Yes.
that's gonna happen, right? And he feels that very strongly, where his wife is like, everything has to be about the tribe. Everything needs like, the family is the important part and um, the ways that that shows up. And so to be able to, again, use this tool of human design to just help them see the mechanics hey, you're not, he's not doing anything wrong. She's not doing anything wrong. There's nothing wrong with either of you. You're just you are given the way you put it at the beginning was perfect, Lauren. It's like each of your contributions in this body that you're currently in is different. And if you're trying to make her have your same contribution or him have your same contribution, that's where the frustration, like the frustration really, really lives. But instead, like, hey, what if we use this tool of human design, even just in a very like general overview sense to say, this is these are your differences. They're very significant. And here's like, what if you experiment? That was the coaching that I um gave them this past week was like, what if you just try? What if you experiment with this, is appreciation and gratitude was the thing that came up. And I mean, for it seemed to land exactly right for both of them,
Mhm.
right? And in such in a loving, light-hearted way, right? When things can feel heavy, that's the other piece I think that's really special is that when we can look at it from an energy mechanics standpoint, it gets to you can stop taking things quite so personally,
Yes. Yes.
and it can be more, we can be lighter with it. We can be more experimental. We can be more like, what if you just try? See what happens. If it gets better, great. The thing I said to the husband was like, what if it was this easy? And he was like, yeah, what if it was that easy? That's something I can try.
Mhm.
The other thing that came through to share, that I think is this is universal, so I'm gonna say it, to everyone too, is that a fully appreciated woman will shine like the sun, and she will shine warmth on everything that she touches. When a woman is fully appreciated. And you can flip that around, yes, for men too, absolutely. But it came, when I was the download as it came was a fully appreciated woman will shine like the sun, and can it be that easy? Can it be that easy? I know from my experience, like, infusing more gratitude and more appreciation into just little everyday things, just consistently is like, lead has led also to that I like myself more, and it's easy it being like that happy, like, the happiness that just, like, that baseline level of happiness is just there so much more consistently
Yes.
than it ever used to be.
Yeah. I working with this couple, right, and truly any couple, it's such a gift to be able to provide the mechanics, to provide the logic behind the mechanics, and allow both of them to see how it plays out for each one of them, and then how it plays out in what they experience from the other person. And I was actually just geeking out myself behind the scenes of like how what a gift it is to be able to when you understand something like human design, you can understand it logically, right? And you can see kind of how the system connects. But then when you see it in real life and you start to see, the wife being a left angle and the husband being a right angle, like, oh yeah, you can see the right angle just trudging forward, doing his own thing, and his purpose is his own. He is the hero of his own story. That's what a
Yeah.
right angle is all about, right? And you can
Yeah.
you can see it play out and how driven he is, and then the wife being left angle of like, wait, wait, wait. My purpose is all about the people that I interact with, the other paths that I cross. And you can see that's just a simple example of like the dynamics. But imagine if you didn't have that kind of um, information. Again, if we're wrong, in understanding or believing in his BFD, like that's the dynamic that's playing out.
Right.
And being able to give them this, hey, hero of his own story, he's gonna, as a manifesting generator, trudge and do his own thing. But a left angle who's here to be about crossing paths of others, and particularly who's a tribal person of like, no, 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 no. It is about like, we got to think about the group too, right? And being able to show them, hey, those are some of the mechanics playing out. How do you find the messy middle
Mhm.
of those, of recognizing, yeah, that you both actually have individual circuitry plays out very differently. Then you've also got a collective moment in there. You got some tribal moments in there, and just supporting them, and being able to see, like, here is this person. And it truly is, here are two wholes coming together to make a completely new entity, and supporting them and understanding, hey, that entity is so special because that entity has its own contribution to the world.
Mhm.
You together have a collective contribution that wouldn't exist anywhere else or can't exist anywhere else because your energy does not exist in anyone else the way that it exists in you. So when you two come together, that contribution, that collective contribution together is so incredibly special. And like, what a gift it is to watch not only dynamics playing out, mechanics playing out, but supporting other people in doing that. And it's, again, if we're wrong, but there's, but it gives something to hold on to. It gives something tangible to work with, to find understanding, not just for yourself, but for another person. And isn't that what fucking life is all about anyway?
I like to think so.
That we're all here to be our own people, but to also have
Mhm.
love and appreciation for everybody else around us. Because I think sometimes the modern world, like, can take something like human design and swing the pendulum so far, and almost have like that narcissistic feel of like, what? Well, I'm me and you're you. So just being so insulary and so individual. But it's like, no, no, no. How do we find the balance of those two things? And what better place to start than one relationship at a time?
Well, and to your point, the especially in a marriage, where, I mean, when you're together for a long time, and resentment can build up,
Oh,
and,
yeah.
like all of those things that we deal with as humans, when we go on our own healing journeys, and like, I can identify with this a lot personally. There is a degree of selfishness that comes with that taking the time, choosing to take the time to heal from, said this, a lot of times, to try to not bleed on the person who didn't cut you.
Yes.
Right, when like trauma was caused before the person you're even with, right? And old relationships and old stories and all that thing. When you take the time to go inside and to start healing, it's going to be a selfish process. It is, like, selfish is not a bad thing. So who else is going to heal that but you? No one else can. But within that, I think the thing that gets missed, or maybe um the process that gets kind of cut off, is that, yes, you are responsible for healing you, but then when you come into contact with everyone else around you is going to hit different triggers. And so the healing within yourself then also has to be tested out in the world. Because if you have connected spiritually, to your inner self and your guides, and you are full of your, like I love myself, I feel all of that, and then you go out into the world and you still scream at other people at the drop of a hat, right? Then it's not actually helping the collective, because that healing that you've done within yourself, you're not then able to use um or tap into that in a real life setting, right? And so it's it's been my experience and understanding that healing in relationship is just as important, right? And how you then bring the healing yourself, if you've done plant medicine, if you've done different kinds of therapy, if whatever that is, if it doesn't then translate into your real world relationships, into actual shifts in how you interact with other people, then there's you're not wrong, it's
The
not
work
bad,
to be done.
there's just still work to do, yeah.
Yes.
And so that's another thing, that's been playing out too, in this same couple of like, okay, yes, like the individual work has been so important. Knowing yourself is so important. We talk about this all the time. Knowing your path, being connected to your purpose, all of that is so, so important. And then when you come into relationships that you want to keep, this is not saying that you have to be, like this is like every person you come in contact with necessarily, but those relationships that you want to keep, if you're married and you want to stay married, if you have kids and you want to have good relationships with your kids, that's where you have to then see, like in this case, like an individual, someone who's lots of individual circuitry. Okay, how can you also tap into the fact that, your spouse is very tribal, and that appreciation that is key for her? How can you like step out, like zoom out from your own individuality when you're together to notice all the things that she's done to keep dinner on the table, to keep things tidy, to keep the kids, at their activities and all the stuff that you didn't take for granted. Maybe it felt like you took it for granted,
Right.
right? Like you're doing all that stuff, great, so I can keep being my individual self. All right. The invitation then is to actually open up and look and see how many of those little individual contributions of hers can you count and appreciate out loud, even with all your individual energy, right? Like
Yeah.
that's the experiment. That's the invitation. It's like, I want you to continue to be your fully expressed self. And if this is a relationship you want to keep, let's incorporate. Let's incorporate another practice as well
Yes.
that's going to help you connect.
Yeah. It's what I always come back to is the golden rule is great. You love people, the way you want to be much prefer the platinum rule. And we had this discussion too, is, treat people the way they want to be treated. And I think when it comes to a relationship, both hold equal weight. It's almost
Uh-huh.
like treat yourself the way you want to be treated. Treat others the way they want to be treated, and being able to find the balance and recognize that sometimes those things will be at odds because your energy mechanics are different. Of someone who is an individual is going, when I say individual, I mean in a lot of individual circuitry, will appear to a tribal person to be very self-centered, self-absorbed, selfish, all the things that we associate with not caring about other people. But when you look at individual circuitry, that's not it. That's not the that's not the mechanic. the mechanic isn't I am so focused on myself because I only love myself. It's I'm so focused on myself because that is what my energy I'm focused because I'm here to bring about change. And if I'm not focusing on my own energy, I won't know when the change is here. But to a tribal person, it's like, nah, bro. Like, bargain. I'm taking care of you. You take care of me. That's what's going on here. Right. I see this dynamic play out between my ex-husband and my younger son. My ex-husband has a lot of tribal energy, and that became wildly apparent after I found out what it meant. Then looking at my younger son, almost strictly individual. And they are always like this. And I, try to explain to my ex-husband, like, it's not personal. He's so in his own experience that he can't see out of it. You as dad have to appreciate his individuality and support him in that. He as son has to understand that the bargain is really important to you.
Mhm.
And to recognize that, yeah, those mechanics are at odds with one another, but that doesn't mean that we can't, as individuals, and I mean that as the broadest, like as one person, that doesn't mean that we can't behave in ways that honor someone else's mechanics without losing ourselves in the process.
Right. Mhm.
And that's not easy. However, again, if we're wrong about human design, I don't really care because it gives us at least a starting point to navigate relationships, ourselves, our own discovery, how we relate to other people, how we relate to the entire world. It gives us something to start with. And we can experiment with those things. How an individual can meet somebody who's tribal, how somebody who's collective can meet somebody who's more individual, whatever the case may be. And that's the thing. Most of us have a mix of all of it. However, individual circuitry is the most abundant, or the most, when I say abundant, I mean it's the most in the chart. So we all have it. Some of us just have a lot more concentration of it than others. Again, if we're wrong, okay, great. You know, we wouldn't be the first people to believe in something that didn't work for other people, you know, because we could have taken this conversation a whole different direction about,
Yeah.
things. We might leave that for another day. But again, if we're wrong, well, because both of us have seen it play out in a way that actually works, can make a difference, not just for individuals as, one person, but for couples or for groups or for whatever. Um, and you know what? It makes, and I'll go there right now. It makes way more sense to me that we are connected to all of the planets that circle around us, that we're connected to the sun and the moon and all these things, because all of the elements that exist in those things exist in us.
Right.
And it makes way more sense to me that an astrological chart or a human design chart or a gene keys map has imprinted something on me from the universe because we all share the same shit.
Mhm.
Otherwise, why the fuck are we all here if we're not connected to everything around us?
Yes. Yeah. No, that's been my conclusion as well. In that, yeah, I mean, it's in the same, the moon, the why do we have tides on Earth? The moon pulls them. Right? It's like, yeah, if we're just completely unfazed by the energy around us, I mean, why do you get a sunburn from the sun? Because it affects us, like, physically in our bodies, right?
I watched this show and I can't remember what it was called, but it was on Netflix back in 2023 or whatever. And it actually demonstrated the true scientific connection between animals who hibernate and the sun. Like the cells in their eyes respond to how light from the sun changes, and that's how they go into hibernation. You know, hello.
Right.
If
Right.
they're connected, oh, we're just so special that we're not. Like we became so conscious that we just all of a sudden we don't connect anymore.
Right. Exactly. We choose not to.
Well, yes,
We
that's
we we became so yeah, like our minds work in such a way that we can choose not to connect. We think we can. But yes, that like that cyclical nature, right? That's such a good example of like, yes, it affects you if it affects your body and it affects your body in ways that are unconscious to you or subconscious to you. And then what we see, the behaviors we have, right? That's that's evidence of the connection that's already there and whether or not you want to bring that into consciousness or not, right? If you want to become conscious of what's happening.
yes.
If you want to stay oblivious, you can. And that was the last point that I really wanted to make was that in so many ways, whether it's, in this relationship work or which also, to be completely frank, is money work. Money
Yes.
work is
Yeah.
relationship work, especially if you're, in a couple. And that's part of what we're doing together with the people we've been talking about s- money work. And it just happened to take a tangent into some deep relationship work because it's what came up and what's important,
And it's
right?
all
But
connected.
it's all connected. It's all connected. But it's because additionally, like when we're bringing these tools into the process, human design, gene keys, a lot of times it's that people have tried to do the normal thing, quote unquote normal. I put that in air quotes. I realize on a podcast you can't see my air quotes. Uh, normal. Um, they've tried couples counseling, they've tried a regular financial planner, they've tried, these other things, and it didn't work because it didn't address them. And I think what you said, what we've said so many times, what you said before in this podcast too, is like because they're two individual people coming together, two wholes coming together to make a new entity. And all of the work that we do at Expansive CEO at X Squared Wealth Planning is um, in keeping with that. You are both, if we're working with a couple, you are both whole individual people. We will treat you as such. We will address you as such. We will work with you as such. And then your goals together are their own entity. But we have to. My intention always is to love and support the individuals, to be the best that they can be, to be expressed as much as they can be, and to learn to love and appreciate that about each other. And that is not usually the case in regular couple. I'm not saying I'm a couples therapist by any stretch of the imagination.
No.
Um, but when people have tried things, right? That's like, oh, we've tried that before. We've tried this before. Or worked with a money manager who's like, "Oh, you're just a number to me." Like, don't ask me questions. You're just a number. Um, or, my experience of sitting in a room and watching. I've told this story before, like sitting with another advisor as I was, learning how to run client meetings, having a husband and wife sit across from me. The wife asked the question, the advisor's looking at her, she asked the question, he turns to her husband to answer it. "Excuse me?" I was like, I couldn't believe what I just saw. And I called it out actually afterwards. And I was like, "Hey, did you notice that?" And he was like, "No, no, I didn't." Like, all right, well, I know what my eyes saw.
Yeah.
And I know she does not feel listened to, taken care of. in this process because you didn't even answer her. Or they ask the question, a couple asks the question, and then the advisor just answers a fully different question that they wanna talk about. Saw that happen over and over and over again. And it was one of the reasons why I was like, I can't. I don't even want to build a practice here. Like, no. Like, I I wanna work with people and actually listen to them and answer their questions that they're actually asking and see them and treat them as individuals and as individually important. Um, and that was even before the human design.
Yes.
But I have a lot of individual circuitry, so I guess that is also innate to me, right?
Yes.
Like, no, you are an individual too, and you're important.
Yep. The only thing I'm conscious of, well, no, it's not fair. I'm conscious of individual and, well, integration. So that's a little slight difference, and tribal. But then I have tribal and collective fully unconscious. There are times when it's all about me, but then it's like, oh no, everybody else needs to get involved too.
Yeah. So if you're listening to this, and and you've tried other things, and that like that's you, like, yeah, I've tried so many other things, or we as a couple have tried so many other things and not to if you do not feel like you are treated and addressed as an individual and that your individual contribution matters, and it's just not part of the conversation, right? Like that's a big piece of the difference
Yeah,
that you got.
yeah, and we'd
Come on
love to
over.
talk. Yeah, I was gonna say we'd love to talk and help you see yourself and also see the entity if it is a relationship, like how you see the entity different.
Mhm. Yeah. Mm. Okay, one last question. It's a little
Ooh,
short one. This is another one that my husband, posed to me, and we both were crying.
oh God.
It was so sweet. I don't I'm gonna try to make you cry, but it was very sweet. He said, "If there is" so listener also, our dear listener, I would love for you to think about this one, and if you have a spouse or kids or anyone who you wanna ask this question, it's a really good one, and it's if other people only had one word to describe you, what would you hope that it would be?
Um, mm, I'm gonna say I just the word that keeps coming up is relief
Oh.
of God bless America. Tears are coming. Um, relief that in my presence they could feel relief about whatever's going on, that it's a space just to be who you need to be in any moment. And the other word that kept coming up is release. Like when together, she allowed the opportunity just to release the worry, release the whatever, and just be who you are in them.
Yeah. Mm, that's beautiful.
Yeah. What was your word?
My word, you probably would not be surprised. My word was love. And it's like for some people, it might feel like understanding or it might feel like warmth, but that, like, at the core, it's like to your point, like, if someone is in my presence, they feel love and they feel love. And if that's all If that was all I accomplished in my whole life for the rest of my life till I'm 116 in the year 2100, that's my goal,
I'll be hanging with you. Just call me
right?
up. We'll make it together. I'll be 118, but yeah, it's fine.
If that is what people feel from me is love, and they love themselves a little bit more, that's it.
Okay, another word just came up. Levity.
Ooh, that's a good one for you. Mhm.
Just lightness. Just
It goes perfect. Release, relief, but with, I'll say levity brings up your the third line is all about humor. Having levity with, yeah, like, "Oh, look what that was. Oops.
I see what I did there.
Whoops."
My bad. Like Cher from Clueless. My bad. When she hits a car. That's the third line.
Mm, levity. Oh, yeah, there's so many good pieces of that word. Mm. Okay, so listener, what is yours? What is your word? That's your homework. If you've
Yeah.
listened to this whole podcast, your homework is, what's your word that you would hope others would describe you?
Yes. And should you hop onto Substack and follow us there, drop us what your word is. DM or chat us what your word is. Or if you want a more direct line, you can email either of us. So Hannah@expansiveceo.com or Lauren@expansiveceo.com. And we would love to hear your word.
Mm, love it. Thank you, listener, for being here with us. And just to wrap it up, again, could we be wrong that this is all just, like a crazy guy?
Some hullabaloo.
A crazy guy channeled in Ibiza? Yeah, sure.
Sure. Could have been high as a kite and just made a whole thing up, you know?
Crazier things have happened.
Exactly.
Um, but if through this process and through interacting with me or with Lauren, you do feel lighter, you do feel especially more self-love. Truly, truly, that's all I care about.
Yep. Work done.
Check mark. Well, thank you. Thank you for being here. We will be back next week. Go check us out on Substack at Substack/expansive CEO. I
If
don't
you
know.
yeah, if you go on Substack and search Expansive CEO, you'll find us.
It'll be there. Beautiful. We're also doing some cool updates to the website, Expansive CEO and X Squared. So wait for those. We'll tell you when that's done. But yeah, keep following along and we'll see you next time.
Bye, friends.